And good evening and welcome to City Focus. I'm Marty Olsen, your host, and tonight I'm delighted to welcome back a wealth of knowledge about our community and region. He hails from Massachusetts and he makes the trek down, and he knows more about our area than most of the natives. So
That's true.
I'm delighted to have Steve Manuel back. He's the executive director of the New London County Historical Society.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you for having me.
And that is housed in the Shaw Mansion down on Bleeman Street, next door to the fire headquarters.
That's true.
In downtown New London.
That's
so,
true.
Steve, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again. I appreciate it.
Well, you were out at the New London Kiwanis Club recently, and you're always on my list of people to call to come on the show.
Yeah.
Because you're terrific, and I enjoy whatever you have to say about whatever we're going to talk about. So,
Okay.
But just before we came on the air, I inquired. There's signage that says, an attraction is the Shaw Mansion.
Okay.
And the sign on the building reads New London County Historical Society. And for the uninformed, what is what and why is why?
Okay. So the New London County Historical Society started in 1870. It was founded by Henry Haven after
Of the library.
Of the library. But he was, dead when the library happened, and that's a whole nother story. So Henry Haven, he was mayor of New London and Williams and Haven, and he founded the society after his half-sister, Frances Mainwaring Calkins, passed away in 1869. She wrote the histories of New London, Norwich, and all sorts of things. And he created the society with her writings at the heart of the collection. Lafayette Foster was the first president of the society from Norwich. So we collect documents, artifacts, photographs that pertain to the history of New London County. So all of Southeastern Connecticut, we're the county archive. So in 1907, the Shaw Mansion, which was built in 1756 by Nathaniel Shaw, was sold to the society by Miss Jane Perkins, a descendant of Nathaniel Shaw. And the society was actually in the public library when that happened, and they moved in. So the society is housed in the New London, the society's housed in the Shaw Mansion. Our collection's there, our offices are there, and the Shaw Mansion itself is an artifact in our collection. So we don't operate like a typical historic house. We don't, we'll give tours when people call me or they send me an email, we'll arrange a tour, but we only interpret about 5 rooms in there. There are a few rooms, only one has been actually restored to its original look.
So nobody can just walk up and bang on the door and expect
Well, they
to get a
could
tour.
if we're there and we'll open up, but it's easier if you book a tour. We would have open hours, but we didn't get enough demand to come in. So, but it's easier to arrange. For example, next week begins the third graders are coming, right? So we have 3 weeks of third graders coming on.
And from what community or communities?
New London, the New London elementaries and charter schools. And I just got a call from another school, and they're booking some school tours. So the school kids will come in. I am going to go over to Niantic, and I'm going to do a talk at one of the senior centers. So, we reach all over. And then people email me and they'll say, well, can we have a tour? And we say, sure. Just tell me when you want to be here, and we'll have somebody here that can open up, and you can come in and you look at the rooms, and we show you the archives and talk about our programming, that kind of thing. But the Shaw Mansion is an artifact in our collection, like the Benedict Arnold sword or George Washington letters or the John Mason sword or the Ralph Earl paintings. So that's kind of the difference.
And I don't think most people understand that. Even our local New Londoners and some who've been here for generations.
Well, I think the reason for that is the Shaw Mansion for the longest time was, and actually since the beginning, I imagine, was the big gray building that nobody knew what it did. And we've done, we've reached out in the community and we've had, open tours, but we're a special collection and archive. So we don't behave the way people expect us to behave. So, and we're here for research, and we publish books, and we do children's programming, and we collect and preserve the history of Southeastern Connecticut. We behave like an educational institution, and not that the museums and house museums and the other historic sites aren't educational institutions. They're all public history, and we all do public history, and that's incredibly important. And these people, and the Hempstead houses and the Customs House and Avery Cop House and the John Avery House and Mystic Seaport, they all do these incredible, work. And it's important. We just do some different things. We answer research queries, and we do genealogy, and we do programmings and talks, and so we're kind of a different animal because we were started as a society that was literally designed to be an archive. So we are more aligned with what libraries do.
What interests me, or piqued my interest, what you just said, is that you mentioned genealogy. My first thought with genealogy would be the New London Public Library, because they've got I think, at least they claim to have a rather extensive research material for genealogy.
And they do, but we have county records. So we're the county. So, you can go, and we just have additional records. We're another resource. The research at Mystic Seaport, you can get research at Mystic Seaport. You can get research almost anywhere. So we're just another facility that has documents and artifacts. And as we're a boon to researchers in that if you can't find something at the library, maybe you'll find it with us. If you can't find it at the Norwich Public Library, then maybe you'll find it with us. So our collection is pretty extensive. And we have, the other thing we have that a lot of facilities or archives don't have is primary source documents. So we have some primary things.
One thing about the space that I think that many people miss is that the building itself is almost, not quite, but almost on the sidewalk, and it's rather wide. And you aren't aware that there's grounds behind it. So
if you look at it, that walkway and that street, Blindman Street, was the carriage road for the house. So in front of that Blindman Street, that Blindman extension next to the fire station, is a green space, and we call that Perkins Green. We own that. That's not the city. So our property line, and actually, if you look at the listing for the Shaw Mansion, you'll see a Bank Street address and not a Blindman Street address.
Really? I learned something new today.
So from Perkins Green all the way to the back of the garden is owned by the London County Historical Society. It was part of the Shaw Mansion property. And if you look at it, the way it's registered, it's two lots because of the way it's fronted. So, because the area next to the fire station is considered its own lot. So when we were looking for some square footage, we went to the city to see about getting some accurate square footage, and we actually had to do a search and a query, and we discovered that the city has us with a Bank Street, and it has to do with some easements and the fact that we own the property, but the city does the road, and it all happened long before I got here 11 years ago.
So do you take care of that little piece of property?
Yes, we do, actually. We mow that piece of property and everything. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So
that's interesting. Now the grounds behind, which are lovely, is that area? A place that people can rent for events, or is that?
We do facility rentals. We can do facility rentals, but when we're not renting it or not running a program, it's green space. People go into the garden all the time. In fact, we have a summer program, and part of that is an archaeology section. So we have kids, our summer program is for kids between the ages of 5 and 12, and they do an actual archaeological dig. And we discovered that the garden wasn't used the way we thought it was used. So, people would think about it as a Victorian garden where there were parties like in Downton Abbey and they played croquet and stuff. But the Shaws were very utilitarian people, and we discovered that the yard was being used to open up goods that were being shipped by the Shaw's mercantile business. They were maritime merchants. So, and what clued us into that is we literally did a dig. It was a grid 100 feet by 100 feet, 10 foot by 10 foot squares, and we did test holes throughout the grid. And when we dug, we found the same kinds of things in every spot we dug. We found broken bits of pottery, we found nails, buckets and buckets of nails. And you have to think about that. In the 18th century, a nail was made by a blacksmith.
Handmade nails.
And you didn't throw it away. But we found them all over the garden because goods were coming in wooden crates. And the Shaws didn't pay for the nails, so it didn't matter if they ended up on the ground. We found bits of clay pipe from the workers that were all over. We found lead cloth seal. And because of the soil, we found 18th century and 19th century artifacts mixed with the same thing, because it would go down about 50 to 60 centimeters and you hit sand. So things stopped sinking. And we were digging up all sorts and so it literally changed how we interpret the backyard. And actually in our exhibit room, we use the short parlor as an exhibit room, we have the dig artifacts on display. And because they were so extensive and so unique, we left them on display so they would be a temporary exhibit. We discovered that they were forging back there because we found slag and charcoal and shells which would be used for flux while they were forging or burning for lime before they had quicklime. So in the colonies, the colonial period, it was illegal to fabricate and forge things because you sent all the raw goods to England and they did it. So it was likely shipsmiths who were forging in the back, making pieces and fabricating pieces that were used on ships to repair things.
Yeah. Now, how big is the piece of property?
Oh, geez, I'd have to pace it off. I wouldn't know. It's pretty extensive. We could fit.
Is it an acre, more or less?
Yeah, more or less, I would say. We fit one of the large event tents on it for a wedding. And I know when the Sea Hunt was in operation, they did Oktoberfest in our garden. So it's got quite a bit of space on the front and on the side, in the back and the side. So, but I don't know, I would have to, because it's odd because there's a summer house on the top of a hill and the property goes behind it as well. So it's kind of deceptive as to how large it would be.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's deceptive. That's why I mentioned that earlier. Just if you don't get back there, a lot of folks, I don't think even know it exists. No.
So, well, and if you really think about it, on the other side of the property of the house, the houses that are lining Washington Street. So it goes, you've got Blinman and Tilly running down either side, and our garden goes all the way back, and the houses at the back side of it are fronting Washington Street.
Do you have any idea why the building was spared during the burning of New London?
Well, it kind of was and it kind of wasn't. When the Shaw family moved initially to the Shaw property, they built a wooden house. All right, and this is in 1730s. And in 1756, they built the granite house. Okay. And they moved the wooden house and attached it to the side of the granite house. And when you look at the Shaw Mansion now, you see the big house, and then you see off to the side a square section with a flat roof. Well, that was the wooden house initially, and Arnold burned it. He got it. Now, I don't know if this story is apocryphal or not. I imagine it was difficult to burn in general because the house is completely granite and the roof is slate. Okay, so the burn parties would have had to get in there, but they said the roof caught on fire. And there are 3 floors to the Shaw Mansion, and then there's an attic. And in the attic was reputed to be a vat of vinegar. So probably apple cider vinegar, which was used on board ship, used for everything actually. A neighbor saw the fire at the Shaw Mansion, and he saw that the roof was supposedly on fire, and he used the vinegar to put it out. So I don't have any records that state that. The story's apocryphal. We can go with, it's a good story, and the mansion, the Shaw Mansion itself didn't burn, but the wooden section burned. And when a descendant of Nathaniel Shaw, Dr. Nathaniel Shaw Perkins, inherited the mansion, he rebuilt that addition on the side in 1845. He actually made some other adjustments too. So when you're looking at the mansion, the big house was 1756. They cut the stones right from the ledge that the house sits on. Next to it, they imported the granite stones, and they built the addition. And actually, if you go and you see the mansion and nobody's there, you can look and you can see the difference in the quality of the stone. But when we did the dig, we found a cornerstone of the original house, and we could see that it lines up with the corner of the addition. So they just kind of moved. It's fascinating the way the colonial folks just lived their lives and assailed things. They just moved that house right down. I imagined it was like portage, like you portage a ship. They just lifted up and kind of rolled it down and
It's
attached it to
amazing
the
how
house.
folks could do that kind of work with rather primitive methods and tools,
So
and be so accurate.
yeah, it's fascinating. It's really fascinating. So
You've also highlighted your work with youth, and I think that's fabulous. I know that when I was in 4th grade at the Harbor School in London, we were given a good history of our community. I mean, it was important, at least in our school. I don't know about the other elementary schools, but at Harbor School in 4th grade, we got a chance to tour some of the facilities and see and learn about Nathan Hale and the Huguenot House, as it was called at the time, and the Hempstead House and the mansion, and Nathan, just the mill. And we had some interesting stuff that something to be proud of in New London. And I'm not sure that the kids get that today or not. You may know better than I do, especially if you've got kids that are coming through there. Maybe they're going through some of the other places as well.
So there's a lot to that, right? So one of the goals of anybody in public history is to connect the public with history and make it relevant and illustrate how history matters. It just matters. And we had a president.
Well, my book I just bought by David McCulloch.
Yep. That's right, and that's what he said. History matters.
And his daughter and one of his aides put together his work and made a book.
Yeah.
It's just relatively recently published.
So I had the good fortune to meet him, actually. When 1776 came out, I was working at a bookstore and needed a signing. So I actually got to meet him. So it was great. I actually have a first edition with his signature on it. So history matters in a very poignant way. And actually, you think about that, right? For me, meeting David McCulloch while working at a bookstore was one more thing that said, I kind of want to do this, right? I was served aboard USS Constitution. When I was a kid, my mom and dad brought me to museums, and I was in the Navy. I touched the pyramids with my hands, and it's very poignant. Material culture connects you to history in a way like nothing else. When you walk up the steps of the Shaw Mansion, you can think, George Washington walked up these steps. The Marquis de Lafayette walked up these steps. Nathan Hale walked up these steps. So you can't go in the rooms and say, well, they walked on these floors, because the floors were replaced, with the exception of the Washington bedroom, which was Temperance's bedroom upstairs. So you could say that there. So I had a board president, 7 years ago, who said, we need to lean into the community service aspect of our mission. So as we looked at it, it wasn't that we served the community, but we wanted to serve it in a more significant way. So we leaned into partnerships and partnering with different people and doing programming. And we discovered that the Salvation Army Boys and Girls Club was looking for some programmatic elements. So we started working with them, and we were bringing in kids ages 5 through 12, and then older kids would help with those, and we'd break them up based on age, and we immerse them in humanities ideas and professions. And we did genealogy at first, and the program went okay. And you know, we had kids, and we had some really good kids, and they're all really good. But they weren't excited, right? And it's our job to get them excited. So we brought them in, and we did what we do. You know, these are the people on the walls. This is the Temperance Shaw and Mary Shaw and Thomas Shaw, and we're talking about all these people on the walls, and they don't know who those people are. So in public history long ago, when I was on USS Constitution, we discovered and determined that people are more interested in history when you're talking about people who look like them. And the next year when we did genealogy, we brought the kids, and we did it before, but we didn't do it immediately. We brought the kids forward and made them the subject of inquiry. Who are you, and where did you come from? Okay, and where'd your family come from? And your family are not the people who share genetics with you, but they're anybody who's at your house, who loves you and cares for you. Where did you come from? What's your story? And we hold up an artifact. I had a cane that belonged to my great-grandfather, and said, you know, this was a family artifact, and it was for me it was meaningful. For them, they didn't care, right? So, and we did a pop-up exhibit where they would bring in pieces from their family, and you know, and they would bring whatever's meaningful. One boy brought in a drawing that his father did, because his father was down in Colombia, and that was meaningful to him. And we discovered that when we asked them about them, by week 2, they were asking about the people on the walls. And they wanted to know who they are. Who's that person? And what did they do? When we came in, and I normally ask, when the kids come in, who doesn't want to be here? Who doesn't want to be here? Let's get it right out in the open. Let's be open. Let's be honest about it. Who doesn't want to be here? And a young man in the front row shot his hand up. I don't want to be here. His name was Jamal. I love Jamal. I don't want to be here. He went 4 weeks through our program. His aunt was coming up from the Dominican Republic to visit. He had us open up so he could give her a tour of the Shaw Mansion and show the exhibit that we had built at the end of the program. That's why we do what we do. He is not interested in history now. He looked at me and he told his aunt, I want his job. I said, Jamal, you can have my job. Okay, I want you to have my job. Now that program is expanded.
If you've hired some help here.
Yeah, right.
So it is.
That program expanded. We're doing archaeology digs. We do natural history where kids learn bird identification and plant identification, and we do the genealogy resource there. And now the Salvation Army is only going to do 2 years, so we went with the Drop-In Learning Center, 2 days, excuse me, they're doing 2 days a week. So the other 3 we're doing with the Drop-In Learning Center. So now we're reaching even more kids. And we're really excited. And this year, we're adding interpretation to it. So we're going to bring in some people who do costumed interpretation and talk about that. And then we're going to teach the kids what it means and how to do that, and get them involved. And there's reading and reporting and all sorts of components that touch on all sorts of things. And the really exciting thing is this is all grant funded, so the kids get it for free. We do it for free, 4 weeks, all of July.
Now as a county facility,
Yeah.
are we getting the youth from Waterford or Stonington or Montville or Norwich?
Those opportunities are there if we have days and the kids want to come. What it really came down to, and I am really open to do the program a little longer, but we're limited in our space. So when we initially started, it's open to everybody. Now we're getting kids, and as those opportunities come, it's there. And if we see an increase in people saying, hey, we want our kids to come down, and that will add weeks. So we'll do it more. You won't be able to schedule all 6 weeks, but maybe you'll do a week of program at the Shaw Mansion.
Yeah.
Well, then there's increased expenses, and grants can only go so far, and we do get member support and stuff. So we're really excited of where this program is going. It's going in its 7th year, and we're going really strong. So, but those opportunities, and as a county, we welcome kids from all over the county to come to us, even for tours, and we do programming with other parts of the county.
Now, one thing that you've said, opened up regarding how you're trying to capture the kids with telling their story,
Mm-hmm.
is that the New London public schools are heavily minority. And so to show them old pictures of white folks certainly is not necessarily maybe the lead-in that they're buying into. They're buying into
That their story matters, that they matter,
Yeah, that's
that
my
their
point.
history. All right, and we're doing, and in fact, we kind of lean into this. We're doing what we call bottom-up history in New London, because we know the stories. We know George Washington, we know Nathan Hale, we know Benedict Arnold, and I can talk ad nauseum about Benedict Arnold on both ends. When he was on, that's the next revolutionary talk, Benedict in Blue. We're going to talk about Benedict as when he was actually a patriot before he came in to burn New London. But we don't look at those people who look like these kids who are here, but we're a maritime community. So people from all over were here in New London, and people of color, people from different races came in because as a maritime community and as a maritime port, those people in and out, right? Portuguese all over there,
work in the
fishermen,
whaling industry.
right? And whaling, and it's just, these people were here, so I can point to and say this person was, he looked like you, and this was his story. So we're thinking about the American Revolution in a bottom-up fashion, and this isn't our idea. This is research that's been going on for a very long time. And we're examining the people in our county and how they participated in the American Revolution or didn't participate, and why. And we're examining it from economic means, from racial means, from gender, from religious means. So, for example, Quakers didn't participate in the American Revolution, but they were classified as loyalists because they didn't fight for the Patriot cause, but they didn't fight for the British cause either.
Well, they were pacifists.
They were pacifists. So, so what was the motivation? And we're using aspects of our collection, because, and this is hard history to do because people in those classes didn't write. So we have to kind of look at actions and examine that. And you do find journals and things like that. We had an interesting perspective on the raid on New London from the Elizabeth Poole letters. She was here and she was writing her brother about it. So we have a woman's description of Arnold's raid, and in it, it talks about people going out when the bird parties came in and they were buying their house from the burn parties. So they would go out and they would offer burn party, I want to buy my house, and they would give them money. And they were also talking about the burn parties going in as they were escorting people out and not burning, but they were going in and they were ripping up garments, dresses, and underthings, and that has to do with the homespun movement, which was a protest of the intolerable acts.
Yep.
So, but it's fascinating to see these first-person accounts, and that's just one piece, and we have to look at that, with observational bias, right? So, what's the real truth of it? Because she might not have witnessed this, she could have been hearing something, other things, but at the end of the day, you still have these kinds of accounts, and you have that flavor. And now if I'm talking to women or younger people, you see an on-the-ground account. So I see giving a lecture, I'm telling a story, and I'm telling you one person's story, so I'm relating to you another person's story. I did a talk on the burning of New London, and instead of standing up and talking, about, well, and then Arnold did this, and they did this, and they did this, I used the John Hempstead account. And I talked about John Hempstead and what he said he did, and went through that whole thing, and there were some fourth grade teachers in the tour, and they asked me for my notes, and she said the kids will relate to this first person story. That's why we do it, so they can get it, they can get a feel, make that impression, and to stimulate inquiry.
Yeah. Now, do you get involved with more recent history? And the timing of this book was marvelous. Bill Morse, who
Bill's book.
Lost to New London on urban renewal and the Winthrop Cove section, the first urban renewal, which was. Is that relevant to what you're doing, or maybe Linwood Bland's book? The Black or African American situation in the '60s. I mean, he was very active with the NAACP, and interesting gentleman. I don't know if you had ever had a chance to meet him or not, but and he wrote a book, and
We published that book.
Bland's book.
Yes, the New London County Historical Society published that book. They also published Black history, Black roots in Southeastern Connecticut. So, and I
Clark
didn't.
Vandeleg's written a couple of books.
I didn't meet Linwood Bland myself. I met his son.
Okay.
And before Bill Morse, there, Anna Valier at Connecticut College wrote a book called Urban Renewal in New London, which talked about the Oldershaw photos. And Oldershaw was a gentleman who was tasked with photographing the buildings that were going to be demolished. He was tasked with that job by the New London County Historical Society. So all the slides that he took are in our collection. And we published that book with Connecticut College. So we published books. So yes, contemporary, we lean towards, the biggest part of our holdings are colonial holdings and whaling. So we have whaling in 19th century. But we still can speak to New London during the Second World War and War of 1812, and then Linwood Bland's book, and the urban renewal, because we have the Oldershaw slides and those documents of what was going on there.
A lot of the Oldershaw's worked in Bill Morse's book.
So yeah, and he was going. His sister donated a good portion of his slides to the New London landmarks, so they have some of the slides too. So, and then we do other things in that regard. So yes, I guess the answer is yes. But because of everything that's going on right now, we're tending to. Although I can't say that, because we did the urban renewal book, not last year but the year before. Last year we did the updated transcription of the Joshua Hempstead diary. So and then we have two books in mind right now. There is a journal of the Lorens on elephant sealing, and someone's writing a book about the USS Connecticut. So we're looking at those right now, but we don't have anything slated. And we don't have anything definitely slated, but something might come up. So I get contacted about that. So we publish books too.
And if folks are coming into New London and they are looking for information, let's say on the Amistad, is that anything that's in your wheelhouse, or I mean, not that it was here long, but it was here?
Well, we have the Amistad narratives, and if they wanted some honestly, I mean, we have the narratives and we could talk about it, but the Customs House does a better job. So I would kind of point them at Susan and send, you should go to the Customs House. Okay. It's like if they came to me for the Battle of Groton Heights. I mean, I can tell a story and pull out some artifacts. I have Colonel Ledyard's tooth in the collection. I can show them that. But they should go over to Fort Griswold because they do a better job. And I can give them the story, and I'm happy to give them the story, but there are people out there who are doing the interpretation, and they've really dug in deep in the interpretation. I'm happy to give them an overview But I'm also happy to kind of point them in the direction of other people and other places in not only New London area, but in our county, where they can get a deeper idea of the story. So when they come over and they see Joshua Hempstead, I'll go over to Hempstead houses. Or when they come and knock on my door and say, you know, can I have a tour, or what's going on, or I give them a tour, I have the hours of the places in the area. I have, you know, the rack cards or the hours, and I send them to the other people in the area. So, you know, we have the Venture Smith narrative in our collection, but the Stonington Historical Society has a beautiful Venture Smith exhibit that was put up, and the research was stellar that went into it. So I can give them the story, and I can give them an overview, but they can get a really deep dive there. If you know, and I'm hoping if those people say you want to learn more about Benedict Arnold, go talk to Steve. Or if you want to know more about privateering, or you want to know more about whaling, you know, go and see Steve over at New London County.
Yeah. Upcoming event that you're with the 250th anniversary of our country. You've got half a dozen revolutionary talks coming up. I mean, what are you putting together here, and how's this being laid out?
So we wanted to talk about the American Revolution, and we wanted to talk about Connecticut and the American Revolution. And I was talking about,
it doesn't get a lot of panache there, Connecticut. It's kind of,
you know, and
it's a place to pass over to get to New York or Boston.
We can only speculate why that is. If you think about it, the only really big battle was Groton Heights, which was at the end of the war.
At the end of the war.
But let's make this statement: 60% of the supplies and manpower for the American Revolution came from Connecticut. 60%.
See, I didn't know that. I would not have guessed that.
So gunpowder, shot, foodstuff, sundries, blankets, and at the wheel of all of these goods coming in, was Nathaniel Shaw Jr. And that's kind of what we're talking about. We're talking about that this month. And it's called Nathaniel Shaw Jr. Quartermaster for the Revolution. And it's a unique expression, quartermaster, right? Because in the Navy it means something different than it means in the Army. Okay, quartermaster secures supplies in quarters for marching Army troops, and a quartermaster in the Navy steers the ship. Ironically, it works both for Shaw, because he was the Navy agent, he was the Continental agent, he was also the Navy agent for the state of Connecticut. And he had a Herculean task, and we're going to talk a lot about that. And then I want to talk about Benedict Arnold, because when you look at Benedict Arnold and what he did for the Americans in the beginning. I used a gunboat navy to hold off the British invasion, and they had to wait a winter. And it gave this country time to prepare, and allowed Shaw to do what he did. But nobody talks about that. We talk about him burning New London. And then the other thing, one of the Shaw daughters, Mary Shaw, sister to Nathaniel Shaw Jr., married a congregational pastor, Ephraim Woodbridge. And we have his sermons. And we're starting to research now, actually not starting, we're continuing to research now on the congregational view of revolution, and how a lot of them were preaching revolution from the pulpit. And the Woodbridge sermons are bearing this idea out. So those are the first three. I've got a couple ideas, and the last three are and then later in the year. So those are the first three. They're planned out. We're doing the research.
And where will these be held?
At the Shaw Mansion.
At the mansion.
You'll come in at the Shaw Mansion. You'll be able to come in. I recommend, you have about 20 or 30 seats. We're not limited at 20 or 30 people. So if you want to see it, you might want to come early so you can sit down. So,
What's the date of the first one?
you'd have to look on the website, I want to say. It's after the annual meeting, so it's the 19th.
The annual meeting's what?
The 18th, so it's 19th, right? 19th of February.
Okay, so 2/18, 2/19.
Yep. And that's a Thursday. We do them on Thursdays. That's a
And
Thursday.
do you remember what time?
7 o'clock. So, but you can go to the website to find
Is
this.
the annual meeting at 7 as well?
I'd have to look. I believe so. But
I know you want to talk about membership and stuff too. You like to get some folks.
if you go to a lot of our events, we've got a new associate director who's doing marketing. Becca is amazing. She's made my life so much easier. And so much harder, but in a good way. The harder is that I'm being asked to speak more, and people know about us more. So she's really dug her hands in and really promoted us. She's in a lot of the community forums and Facebook and posting them there. We have a weekly newsletter that announces the events. We have the website which has the events on it. I don't know if it's updated yet. So there are, but if worst case scenario, if you want to know what's going on, you can email info@nlchs.org and we'll have all that information for you. So as we're doing these things and as we're growing, I mean, we're going to be doing something for Juneteenth as well. We're partnering with Hempstead Houses for a maritime themed event in August. And then typically Flock Theater does the Burning of Benedict Arnold. So
Well, now what do you think of that? I've had some folks, they think it's terrific, and other folks, they think it's a sacrilege.
Well,
and I don't really have an opinion on
well,
it.
it's kind of, we didn't have Guy Fawkes anymore, so they decided to burn Arnold in effigy. So it has its historic place. I guess it's hard. It has a place in history. And not just we're going to burn Benedict Arnold because he was a traitor, but actually the burning has its place in history. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So it's like Guy Fawkes Day when they burn Guy Fawkes in effigy. Okay, they do it to commemorate an event, but the thing itself has historic relevance. So from that standpoint, I think it's fantastic because it kind of shows you what people were doing. Okay, so what do I think about Benedict Arnold? I think Benedict Arnold got a raw deal and made bad choices. Okay, and if you want to learn more about that, come to the Shaw Mansion, listen to my lecture, because we've only got about 15 minutes left and there's not a lot of time to defend that statement.
Not for that.
Okay, so Benedict Arnold had a lot going on, but at the end of the day, he made the choices he made. Okay, there's reasons that he made those choices, but he made those choices. And I think people were angry because for them, Arnold's betrayal, and I'm talking Washington and other people, with the exception of Jefferson because they didn't like each other, well, and a number of other people. But for the people who counted on Arnold, his betrayal was personal because he was a hero and he betrayed. So it kind of elicited this outrage, which rippled outward, right? Because burning didn't happen until much later. It wasn't happening right away. It happened until much later. So it rippled outward, and then people held on to it. And then the apocryphal stories that surround him, they hold on to, right? And what it is. So and it's interesting. So that's the best part, right? That kind of passion. So if you like it or you don't like it, it doesn't matter. At least you're passionate, right? And it matters to you, but in the grand scheme of things. So, but the passion is there, and that's important. I'd rather have people talking about it than not talking about it.
I think you're onto something there. We're getting precariously close to the end of the show here. You have your annual meeting coming up.
Okay.
And Is that open to the public?
Yes. I mean, or, you know, you're going to hear the reports and see budgets, and, you know, there's not going to be a lecture or anything this meeting.
No policy decisions or?
No. I mean, the typical kind of meeting things you have. I mean, if you want to come, I'm only going because I have to.
But you'd like to get more people involved in the
I would
organization.
like people to be more involved in what we do. Okay? And the meeting's part of it, and you might want to come and you might want to see that. But, you know, memberships to come in and support and you know, come and see the programming. And if you're interested in volunteering to do genealogy work, I mean, we open and do some heavy genealogy work on Mondays. But it would be great if somebody came in and wanted to do Tuesdays or Thursdays, and they wanted to learn how to do genealogy.
Yeah.
We'll do
you
that.
mentioned Nicole Thomas in the conversation.
Nicole's awesome.
She's big on genealogy.
Nicole is awesome. I adore Nicole. She's wonderful. She's on my board. She's the vice president of our board. And you know, the other thing we didn't mention that we have help in regard to is we have a robust internship program. The thing we have coming up is another program we have coming up. It's called Perspectives on Revolution, and it's literally presenting that bottom-up history research we're doing. And it's a lot of the students at College are doing it. And it's going to be a podcast, and we'll put it up online. I mean, if people want to, I've got a face for radio, but you know. And it's going to be a roundtable discussion. It's not Steve kind of pontificating and telling you, well, then we discovered this, and then this happened. We're going to sit around, we're going to talk about it. So we'll talk about an event like the Minerva, when they wanted to capture 2 munition ships coming from Liverpool to Montreal. They asked the Connecticut ship Minerva to do it because the Continental Congress didn't have any ships. This was at the very beginning of the war. And they provisioned the ship, and they got the officers, and they got the crew, and when it was getting ready to go, the crew refused to go. They didn't go. They didn't leave. They weren't going to get on board, and they weren't going to fight. Okay? And we're going to talk about why that was, because there's reasons for that. And hopefully, if we do this right, we'll begin every discussion with a story like that. And we'll unpack the reasons why the average sailor in Southeastern Connecticut, in New London, in the Groton area, weren't willing to get on a boat and chase 2 ships packed with shot and gunpowder. And then why the British were tearing up women's garments during the burning of New London, and what women were doing and thinking, and what ministers were doing on the pulpit, like I said. So I'm talking about a lot of the research we've done, but we're going to really unpack it, and that's kind of the theme through this whole commemoration. I mean, we'll tell the big stories too, but other people are going to be telling them, and we want to tell those stories that are about people that look like you and me and anybody else who's sitting out there. We want those people who weren't seen by everybody because they didn't have a way to express themselves. And we're going to talk about that because that's important. Why? Because history matters. So I hope that answered your question.
You always answer my question.
I kind of went off that way. I kind of went off that way.
And well, that's okay. We'll have to have you back. That's all.
I'm happy to come
Perhaps a
back.
bit more frequently than once every 4 or 5 years. I think we should do it.
I'm happy to come back anytime and talk with you, Marty. I enjoy this. This is great. I think you do good work. I think this is important.
And I think it's important for our audience, however large or small it may be, but is that you have the capacity to take this program, and if there's bits or pieces of the program as a whole that fits into anything you're trying to do, whether it's with videos or snippets or fundraising or whatever, to take this work here and use it for your benefit. I think that that's one of the benefits of this, and it's free.
Yeah, that is nice. So and it's important. I mean, history's happening now. So in essence, this is history too.
Well, that's why I asked as far as even something 60, 70 years old.
Sure, but even now, right? Because the past informs the future, but history happens now, every day. It's happening. So, and we collect those things, and we, and that's what it is. And the whole idea is to save it, preserve it, because it matters, and ensure that it's around for people who want to look, and for for future generations and to inspire them to work in history and then understand that saving these things are important.
I think that's one of the best parts of Bill Morse's book is that the community leaders at that time, I mean, they just kind of used the bulldozer approach.
Yep.
There was no selectivity at all. I mean, whether this had any value or not. I mean, you look at some of the photos and you say, boy, why did they tear that down? And
Right.
you can also see some photos where there's stuff that was taken down that probably should have come down.
Right. So, and it's
But
just,
they just took the
right? So, and you wonder how people make those choices, right? And you have, right, because those choices are, you like to think they're informed, but those choices are subjective, right? So you have these subjective choices. And as historians, as we look at it, we're never going to get to that point. We won't ever have all of the information. We won't. We can only form a hypothesis and search for evidence and sources to support that hypothesis. So it's almost a postmodernist idea. There's no objective truth. So they might have taken that bulldozer approach, but what were the other factors? We don't know what we don't know. Chester Nimitz said that's the worst part of the information. We know what we know, we know what we don't know. But the information that always gets us is we don't know what we don't know.
That's a fact.
Okay. So we don't know what we don't know. So we can look at it and we can make our best guess, but that's, we engage in speculative history. So I can't definitively say this happened. I can take a shot at it, and I can tell you what this guy said happened, and he was there. Okay. So that's actually, believe it or not, it's both the frustration and joy of history. Because you look at it, and like I said, the apocryphal story of the vinegar in Shaw Mansion, was it true? I don't know. I wasn't there, but it permeated and radiated, and we ended up with that story.
Got that oral history.
Yeah, we do, and so, but hey, it's a great story, and it leads us somewhere. We know they kept vinegar upstairs, right? I can prove that.
There you go.
We know they kept it upstairs. So, we can look at it and see it.
Well, it sounds good. I'm going to try to get to some of this stuff here coming up, but at the moment, unfortunately, we have exhausted our time.
Oh.
So the flag has been waved through the door there, and
like
so I want to thank you for coming in and spending an hour. And terrific information, and thank you, Steve Manuel. And if you're interested, stop down or call or email and get plugged in.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a rich history here in New London and in New London County, so get involved. So thanks for watching City Focus. We'll see you again next week. Good night.